Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drake Wayne Gaming, and sitting to me on Twitter, the Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you another Let's Play episode of Remake, Sissel's Path. So yeah, before we jump into it, just wanted to let y'all know that our Patreon is now up for as little as $5. Y'all can help support the channel, get some awesome rewards like permanent access to our community Discord server and full access to upcoming not safe for work videos. Anyway, y'all, let's go ahead and jump right back in. Alarm chain, you were up, and let's go. During my time in school, I remembered hearing Mrs. Corliss loudly brag to all her colleagues about how talented Cecilia was. Her hard-working nature and relentless ambition was truly admirable. She was no genius, but she managed to keep her grades up through sheer stubbornness. And most of all, her talents as a pastry chef were extraordinary. As the years passed, her accomplishments only grew. I tried my best to follow in her footsteps as her loyal little sous chef, but my sister's talent was far beyond my reach. Oh, that's a good picture. I want to claim that I contributed at least a little bit as her assistant, but in all honesty, her victory was truly her own. No one was surprised when Cecilia won the National Culinary Championships in spectacular fashion. Nor was anyone surprised when selfless Cecilia announced in interviews that she intended to use the cash prize to fund her little brother's education. My sister did so much for me, her love, unconditional. But there was a small part of me that resented how little I compared to her, how little my efforts mattered. I like to think I was a chef of no small talent, but I was forever known as the great Cecilia Bradley's talented little brother. I didn't hate it entirely. Having Cecilia as a sister was a point of pride for me. There was one aching fear gnawing inside me, one singular loathing sensation. I hated how I would never be able to repay her for everything she's done. Despite all my efforts to help her in return, Cecilia didn't need me. She would have flourished even more if her precious little brother wasn't there to weigh her down. I was just a burden at this point, another mouth to feed. Every time she helped me, comforted me, and supported me, I felt the loathing for my own helplessness grow stronger. Maybe she should have left me there, back at that awful house. She would have been better off. A part of me remembered that suffocating dread I felt when I was left behind. And that thought steeled me, forced me to face forward. I was going to become someone who was worth all this trouble. I would repay her for her kindness, if it was the last thing I ever did. I'd become someone worthy of being Cecilia Bradley's younger brother. So, a few years down the line, a plan began to form in my head. Although we were free from our parents' grasp, life had not been kind to us. Our parents somehow continued to haunt us beyond the grave in the form of their debt collectors. They were constantly knocking at our door and demanding payment at gunpoint. There was no reasoning with them. We had burned through most of the prize money from Cecilia's winnings at this point, and the situation was growing dire. Cecilia even tried to marry a rich fellow from the city next over. For her efforts, she was left alone with a fatherless child, and bless her heart, she swore to raise him the best she could. I died before I forced another child to grow up like I did, she said. Tried to help the best I could, pulling out of school and working extra hours to support her and my new nephew. It was not enough. Our debt collectors grew more violent, their demands more absurd. There you go, water time. It was all we could do to fend them off, and so I decided to move forward with my plan. We just needed one more victory. Cecilia could not compete in the National Culinary Championships again, but I could. I had attended the preliminaries and swept through the competition with ease. If I made it to the Nationals and won, I could use the money to pay off the rest of our debts, would be free from the final lingering grasp of our parents' cruelty, and I would finally be able to repay my dear sister for all that she had done for me. There was only one small problem. I couldn't afford the trip across the country to the Nationals. If I only had the chance to compete, I could fix everything. If only I had the chance. I didn't know what possessed me to steal money from my sister for the trip. Maybe it was because I knew Cecilia would forgive me. She was always that kind of person. Maybe it was because I really believed I could single-handedly solve all of our problems. Or worse yet, maybe I did it solely because I wanted a chance to finally bask in the spotlight, finally free from my sister's looming shadow. Whatever the case, I had won. Holding that golden cup in my hands, I felt the pride and contentment in myself for the first time in my life. Finally, I had done something worth a damn. If only I knew what it would cost. I felt the world drop from under me when I arrived home. The house was in ruins and my sister was nowhere to be found. I remember tearing through the house from top to bottom, searching for any sign of my sister, of my family. But they were gone. I was once again left alone. Except this time it was my own fault. She really should have just left me back there in that awful house. The next few years passed in a solemn blur. Every day was a daze. I took my winnings and opened up a small cafe downtown, just like you always dreamed of doing. I went through the motions of running the place, but everything felt empty. I wasn't sure why I even bothered. You should be here, not your miserable excuse of a brother. I couldn't even bear to look at that miserable golden cup and ended up tossing it in a closet to rust. That crushing guilt weighed over me, and not once ceasing for a single moment. On some days I wondered why I even bothered waking up. A small part of my mind told me that this was what you would have wanted, for me to keep moving forward. Another part of me knew that if I ended things, I might see you again. The mere thought of it, the sheer guilt, terrified me. So I kept pushing forward, living through the days like an empty, cowardly husk. But everything changed when I found him. On that rainy day, I found him digging through the garbage bin behind the cafe. At first, I thought he was another scavenger raccoon and almost clocked him over the head with my umbrella. Whoa, hold up, what's the big idea? That was a kid's voice. I threw my makeshift bludgeoning weapon and gingerly tapped the side of the garbage bin. What the hell are you doing in my trash? Get out of here, kid. It ain't sanitary. Oh, fuck off, you twat. It's not like you're gonna use any of this stuff anyway. Right there, okay. Second, y'all. Water time. I froze and stared. Two tiny ears perked up from behind the bin and a pair of familiar eyes stared back. It was like seeing a ghost. In that moment, in the cold, uncaring rain, I just knew with all certainty in the world that I had found him. Sis? The fuck? Do I know you? You should have seen the little guy. He was so much like you. Brash, stubborn, and took no nonsense. But there was that same look in his eye. It was the look of a child who was forced to grow up too fast. Well, that wouldn't do. I'd die before I forced another child to grow up like you did. I took a step forward, and the boy already looked like he was ready to bolt. I held my umbrella over his head and forced a tired but friendly smile across my face. That was the first time I smiled in a long while. Probably looked awful. Apparently the boy agreed. He tried to scurry out of the garbage, but only managed to tumble out and fall on his face. I plucked him off the cold, wet ground before he could make a break for it. Hey, hands off! What are you in such a big hurry for? The kid was shivering against the rain. His clothes were oversized for his thin body and ripped at unsightly places. You look like you've seen better days. He crossed his arms and shot me a stubborn glare. It's been pretty average, to be honest. Getting almost clobbered while I was looking for lunch is a bit new, though. Lunch? I ain't nothing in that bin besides used napkins and stale baguettes. I don't have much to choose from now, do I? I stared at him for a moment. You got a home, kid? Or at least someone you can call? The boy glared at me as though it was a peak of stupidity. Do I look like I'd be digging through garbage for food if I had parents or a home? I swear to God, if you call child services, I'm gonna... Hey, what are you doing? I hoisted the kid over my shoulder and began making my way towards the cafe. He weighed very little, and comfortably so. First things first, let's get you out of the rain. You hungry? What kind of question is that? I'll take that as a yes. A nice omelet and some French toast should warm you up. The boy was quiet for a while. You know, most grown-ups tend to throw me out when they find me digging through their trash. What kind of grown-ups have you been running into? I ain't leaving a starving kid out in the rain. There's a futon and shower upstairs. You can stay as long as you need. He suddenly grimaced and scowled, ears drooping in almost shame. I don't need your fucking charity. I've been mooching off my friends too much already. I don't want to turn into a damn leech. Okay, Neil. His stomach betrayed him with a sharp gurgle. I threw my head back with a laugh. You can argue all you want after you're fed. At this point, the kid had stopped thrashing in my grip, but continued to eye me warily. I can get on fine on my own, you know. I've been doing that since forever. That doesn't make it right, but... I sighed. You sounded so much like you. The same stubborn self-sufficiency. Alright, how's this? You looking for a job, kid? I've been wanting to help her around the cafe lately. I can teach you a thing or two about cooking and baking while you're at it. I don't know the first thing about food. That's fine. You can learn. And if you don't like it, we can find something else for you to do. I ain't leaving you out on the streets, though, no matter how much you complain. I'd be able to live with myself if I did that to a kid. The boy kept staring at me, as though not quite believing what I was saying. You're a weird fucking guy. I laughed again, and a genuine smile spread across my face. I've been called worse. It's Sissel. Hmm? You asked for my name earlier. It's Sissel. I grinned. My chest suddenly feeling lighter than it had been for years. Sissel, huh? It's a fine name. Welcome to my cafe, sis. On that merciful day, I swore to hell and back that I would not take this second chance for granted. I was good for nothing, less than worthless, but I refused to let you down again. Your son will grow up with all the love and support I have to give. I swear it upon my life. Since that day, this promise was the only thing that kept me moving forward. It was the only thing that made my life worth living. My consciousness fluttered back into focus under that shimmering night sky. I blinked and rubbed my eyes, my mind still trying to process what I just saw. So that was Hershel's memory. Sissel's presence hovered beside my own. I could feel his own storm of conflicted emotions roiling against my chest. We sat silently for a while, neither of us uttering a word. It felt like an eternity before we both managed to catch our breaths and Sissel finally spoke. I think I've seen enough. I'd like to wake up now. Right. Sounds good. I'll see you back at Bradley Lake then? Yeah. I heard Sissel mutter something under his breath. Soon I felt his presence fade as his consciousness fluttered outside the memory well's reach. I should probably get going too. Staying here for so long was starting to take its toll. Exhaustion weighed over my entire being like an unrelenting fog. As I felt my body waking up and the memory well fading from view, something caught my eye. If I stared hard enough, I could see a small, familiar figure sitting beneath the pale waters below. It was hardly visible beneath the misty glow of the clockwork realm. The frail figure smiled and waved. I thought it was trying to say something, but I couldn't catch a single word before the world faded from view. A second, y'all. My eyes snapped open. Oh! There. My eyes snapped open. Sissel and I were lying on the grass at the edge of Bradley Lake. It looked like we were passed out for a long while. The sky was already dark, and our clothes were dry from our soak in the lake. Sissel sat up and stared off into the distance in a daze. I'm not even going to ask what the fuck just happened. I let out a chuckle and scratched my head awkwardly. I don't think I could explain it even if you did. Did it help, though? I'm seeing things from Hershel's perspective. Everything that we saw, was it all real? Probably. This camera thingy has never lied to me before. Sissel fell silent again, glaring at the grass at his feet. Then he stood up and began to briskly walk away. Sissel? Hey, where are you going? I rushed after him as he stomped down the forest trail leading out of Bradley Woods. Sissel had marched all the way to the front of Hershel's cafe without uttering a word. I panted as I struggled to keep up with him. Sissel, what are you up to? He continued to say nothing as he struggled with the cafe's front door. Locked. The lights are off and everything. Looks like Hershel closed the place down for today at least. Sissel grunted. He dug a spare key out of his ragged shorts and shoved it into the keyhole. The front door swung open to reveal a dark and empty cafe. All the chairs were propped up on the tables and the pastry displays were empty and unused. Boss? Sissel's voice echoed through the dining area with no response. He let out a huff and stomped into the kitchen. Hershel was nowhere to be found. Dumbass. Regulars probably weren't happy to see the place closed today. He let out a sigh and slumped onto a nearby chair. Is everything okay? Sissel rubbed his temples with a frown. Yeah, kind of. Alright, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and check out our Patreon if you can. It always helps. But before I go, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our lovely bronze tier patrons. Thank y'all for all you do for the channel. We greatly appreciate your donations. And thank you to our silver tier patrons, Cade Silvermoon. Thank you so much for donating a bit above and beyond. It's greatly appreciated. And thank you to our, gold tier patron, Amr. Thank you for going way above and beyond and subscribing to our ultimate tier. We love you. You're awesome. We hope you enjoy your new icon. And anyway, if y'all want to get your name in the credits and get access to our not safe for work videos, it's as little as $5. Anyway, I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye!